Remember, great boobs. That one that's always hitting on me.
I miss the boobs.
I'm supposed to give a performance and they're talking about great boobs.
Yeah,
I have
well,
nothing, I have nothing for that.
That's supposed to get you up. That's supposed to get you up for it.
Well,
I'm sorry.
I shall erect my manner for this.
Yeah, I can edit.
No, don't bother editing. Just cut out the boring parts.
I'll roll one up.
I was telling the my friends here in Tupper, which is an umbrella I consider myself under now. So I've joined these bandits, rock and roll bandits. I was telling them about an experience I had with. Years ago, 37 years ago, I became pretty much lifetime friends with Marcel Marceau. And 2 years into knowing each other, we realized that we'd known each other, well, he'd known me from St. Thomas in the Virgin Islands. But before I tell that particular story, I want to convey something that he told me and the reason we discovered this. He basically was explaining to me when he found out that I'd been a chef on St. Thomas at Bluebeard's Castle, that he also performed every once in a while in the Virgin Islands, and St. Thomas in particular, and was in an amphitheater performing in front of about 300 people and doing a man entrapped in a glass cage as only he could. I mean, his hands would even act like there was something pressed against him, his skin obeyed him, which was just extraordinary. I mean, the hand would go flat, like it was on a flat surface. So, you know, I think his body had felt that was his life. So his body just went ahead and this is what we do. And the skin obeyed too, which was just the most amazing thing. But nonetheless, he told me he was performing this man entrapped in the glass cage, and right in the middle of the act, he had the audience spellbound, and right in the middle of the act, this bat comes flying out of the woods at him and starts circling him. And he was terrified of bats because of rabies and so on. And he knew that he couldn't break the spell with the audience right now because he had them so trapped in what he was performing, that he just decided to put even more energy into this man entrapped in a glass cage. And within moments, the bat flew the circumference of what he was imitating and darted off back into the woods. At which point he got a standing ovation, even though that was not near the end of the performance.
How much you paying the bat?
Right.
In ninjutsu, we call that projecting intention.
Yeah. And so, and I'm looping that in with Marcel Marceau and I already being friends for 2 years, and I told him about my stint as a chef at Bluebeard's Castle in St. Thomas, and how I became famous as the African poet because I did a radio show with King Obstinate, who was a Calypso legend. I performed at Bluebeard's Castle with Nat Blake, who was a legendary pianist, and scolded me for not recognizing King Obstinate when I was invited, but that's another story. But nonetheless, Marcel Marceau told me that he had performed in St. Thomas in 1977, which was the same year I was there, and that he actually caught one of my acts at the Frenchman's Reef because that's where he stayed. And we didn't know each other at the time. I didn't meet him, but it's interesting that he was an audience member and recognized me from that years later, and from that point on, he referred to me as the African poet because that's what I got famous as in the Virgin Islands. I couldn't even call a cabbie without the cabbie knowing who was on the other end of the phone. Because I remember calling from the other end of the island, asking this lady cabbie, the Virgin Islander, so what happens if somebody calls you and you come all this way, 15 miles across over the hill and down and there's nobody here? She goes, well, a lot of times I can't do anything, you know. But I know you're the African poet.
All right.
She'd heard me on radio, so there was no escaping. So I'm going to read this piece. I wrote a tribute to Marcel Marceau, which he dearly loved, and I'm honored to be able to say that. And he actually sent me a self-portrait that he drew himself from his studio in Paris in exchange as a thank you for this piece. This is called Marceauesque, and it explains him. He even felt that I hit the mark when he read it. So I give you Marceauesque now that Marcel Marceau is no more in the flesh. Like a phantom neath a street lamp, hath he come his trade to ply. Both by shadow elongation and artful gesticulation doth he mesmerize the eye, creating metaphoric notions like a ship that roves the oceans, or a tree in windy orchard where once souls were gassed and tortured. Then with sparse gesture and pace reveals he yet another face, tearing off his facial facades, the blasphemy, the blind charades. Then conquered like a forlorn gull, he tears at the mask that adheres to his skull. As death must come to one and all, he reaps eerie harvest of souls in their fall. Thereupon from ominous disguise doth he metamorphosize into divinity anew, archangel having lost a shoe. Then politician at his desk, his mockery quite chaplainesque, a president in mid-campaign, by silver tongue the masses slain. The mimic of tedium and routine, where discontent is evergreen. Pantomime of flowers taken from the garden of love forsaken. His tears emit like a gentle rain, renewing their vigor, appeasing their strain. Then like a spirit he ascends to motion other human trends. This genius of gesture, as silences go, on whom love bestowed the name Marceau. A soul of an angel with a heart for the fool, who doth find in his mime a remedial tool. His compassion is noble, though his empathy bleak. He is the soul's testimony that silence will speak.
Cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That was great.